This podcast is brought to you by Blackaby Ministries International. To find out more, visit blackaby.org.
Welcome to the Richard Blackaby Leadership Podcast. My name is Sam, and I'm your host. And today on the podcast, we have a very special guest. Horst Schulze is the founder, chairman, and CEO of the Capella Hotel Group, and co-founder and former COO of Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company. He is a legendary leader and global titan of business. His visionary and disruptive principles have reshaped the concepts of excellence, service, and competitive advantage, transcending divisions of industry across the business landscape. His book, Excellence Wins, is out now, and we'll leave links to that in the show notes. For time, we've decided to make this a two-part episode. So now, please enjoy part 2 of our conversation with Horst Schulze.
Well, let me ask you just because there's people listening that they don't run a international hotel chain. They run one store, or they pastor a church that has 100 people attending, and they're listening to Horst Schulze, who founded Ritz-Carlton, and saying, "Yeah, but we're not a Ritz-Carlton. So you can do things with excellence if you've got a Ritz-Carlton budget, but if you're leading a small company, a small church, you can't do things with excellence. You just have to do so kind of job." What advice would you give someone who's leading something small with a small budget? Can they do things with excellence?
Let me make a very arrogant statement here. If I had a little hardware store, it would be the best hardware store in the city. I promise you. Because
I have no doubt.
Because Richard, what did we really do? We cared for our customers. That's all. And we make sure that the employees are aligned and understand why we care. We didn't just say do it to the employees. We didn't just do this. We explained them why. We connected them to the purpose and the reason of everything. And all is caring. So I have to, if I have that little hardware store or whatever it is, or a Motel 6, I have to understand what is the market expecting from me, and how can I show them that I care for them. That's really what it is. Richard, the expectation of a customer, when the customer buys anything, it doesn't matter what it is. A bottle of water or a house or a TV or legal service. The subconscious expectation that you have from your purchase is that number one, there are 3 things. Let's say it's a bottle of water. I like to give that as an example. It's so simple. Next to a bottle of water, the expectation is that it is defect-free. There's nothing swimming in it. That's a subconscious expectation. It's clean. Yeah. The next subconscious expectation is that you get it when you want it. Timeliness. Very important. Very important. Number 3, that the people who give it to you are nice to you. That's the expectation. Now, if I know that, I have to create processes behind each expectation in my particular business. It doesn't matter. But here's the crazy thing. And people know it, but they're not doing it. They have no process for it. The caring is the greatest driver of customer satisfaction and eventually loyalty, more so than the product and the timeliness. Wow. And the crazy, why wouldn't I do something about that? But that means I have to align everybody that contacts the customer to show caring. That's it.
Now, one other just kind of side story that I find fascinating is that you trained your staff. One of their responses always was "my pleasure." If someone had a problem, it was "my pleasure." And of course, a lot of people are in the South are used to hearing that from Chick-fil-A. When they go to Chick-fil-A. But
I think, Richard, you know how that happened. Yeah. In fact, Dan Kathy tells it slightly different I do, but I remember exactly what happened. In fact, Dan and I were running a race together, and Dan says, Horst, mind you, that is over 30 years ago. Have you been in a Chick-fil-A? I said, yeah. He said, what do you think? I said, well, you're the best of a lousy lot, but you're not very good. Wow. Whoa. Okay. So we went to a Chick-fil-A. We talked about what I thought would change. And then I said, and we talked, and Dan came to Ritz-Carlton with the people, and I went there one day to talk to them about the customer approach. All their vice presidents. Truett Cathy was sitting in the back, just listening to it. And I told him, okay, first of all, eye contact within so many feet, saying hello, welcome, not necessarily hi. And said, in fact, it's language. Instead of hi, say, hi, good morning, how are you today? But in a Chick-fil-A, hi is okay, but better once in a while say welcome and so on. Next, don't say okay. In Ritz-Carlton, we say my pleasure instead of okay. But you guys, that your market segment, you shouldn't say okay, my pleasure. It's too fancy. You should, and everybody agreed. We shouldn't say that. We should, and so we were talking for 10 minutes what we should say. I'm happy to, certainly, or so on. And all of a sudden, Truett in the back raised his finger and said, I like my pleasure. And I said, well, Mr. Cathy, that's good for Ritz-Carlton, but not for you. I like it. That was it. So people give me credit, said to me, well, you brought my pleasure to Chick-fil-A. No, I told them not to use it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story. Of course, anyway, all the fans are also have loyal customers to Chick-fil-A, but that connection with Ritz-Carlton and my pleasure, I've always found that fascinating. Of course, Chick-fil-A has an eye for doing things with excellence and excellent customer service also. But well, as we're running out of time, like I knew we would, you have a book, and I know for years you were working on this book. And it was one of those masterpieces that was taking a long time to come together, because you have given talks around the world and you've spoken in all kinds of conferences about this, but you'd never put this in writing before. But it's just last year, within the last year, that your book finally came out, and I love it's so appropriate, the title, Excellence Wins. A no-nonsense guide to becoming the best in a world of compromise. And so tell us, I think in essence, you put your philosophy in these pages, don't you? And the leadership lessons. Yeah,
very much so. And I try to tell it in the form of stories. But excellence, Richard, excellence is never an accident. It's always the result of high intentions. So excellence starts with high intention. And excellence in a thing, a car is if it runs well, a knife if it cuts well. Excellence in a human being, though, you have to be excellent and have to have high excellent intent in what you do, your work, but also in your morality. But also in your relationship. And if you're really all around living in your spirituality, if you put excellence, intent, high intent in those four, that means you become a human being of excellence. But excellence, high intent in a company is, for me, the high intent was very simply, we will be the finest hotel organization, the finest service organization in the world. But I had to make sure that serves all concerned, which I touched on. But once I've made sure about it, I have to say, what are the steps that gets me there? And then I had to keep focus on it. And my focus now was that nobody strays from it, that constantly every decision is made for that high intent, which I know was serving everybody. Even if I had to let somebody go, I knew I had to do it, because if I would not have, it would have been against being the very best. That means against every employee, every investor, every customer, and society as a whole. So my decisions were made clear to me by the intent that we had.
Oh.
But excellence, it's high intent. Our destiny in this world, what we do in this world, it's not chance. It's not chance. It's choice. And that choice has to be very high intent. And if it's not high intent, you may end up somewhere where you don't want to be.
Yeah.
And you have to be, and a leader has the obligation to be very deliberately understand that and know it and work it. But deliberately question themselves constantly, is my decision good for all concerned?
Yeah. And anyone who's ever been in a store or a restaurant that is poorly managed, that is not managed for excellence, just looking at the staff, to me, it's demoralizing. I can't imagine working in a place that did not want to do things with excellence. It's almost dehumanizing to just do whatever. I think you dehumanize people when you don't ask for their best.
Yeah, Richard, I worked a couple of years ago. I'm working with several companies, consulting, and on several boards. But I talked to a company to potentially consult with them. It's a couple of years ago. And I said, so what is the objective of the company? What is the objective? And he pulled out the annual report and read the vision statement for the company and went right on to read the mission statement. And I said, well, that sounds really great. Is everybody aligned to that? Oh, everybody knows it. And I went out into the company and talked, honestly, over 100 people. Nobody ever heard about it. Nobody. Nobody. And in fact, one employee said, what do you talk about? Vision problem. I only work here. Why would we expect great results if we don't align, if we only let your people fulfill function, like the chair on which we're sitting is fulfilling a function. We're dealing with human beings. We're dealing with human beings. Yeah. And it is to me sinful to hire human beings just to fulfill a function. I hire them for a purpose. And I go back, and I often do that. I know, quote the philosophers, Aristotle said, you cannot be fulfilled without having purpose, without belonging. So if I know that, particularly as a Christian, love your neighbor as yourself. So how can I hire them now and just give them function rather than try to help them to be as a human being fulfilled in this earth, connecting them to being part of excellence and so on. It's not acceptable. Well, by the way, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, especially pastors listening today and church leaders, I know you feel passionate about that in business and in hotels, but certainly when you're running a church, you would think that if you're doing that for God, how would you not do everything with excellence when it was for God and when it's affecting people's eternal destinies, perhaps, by how well you manage yourself?
Exactly. I mean, by the way, people should not think that everything went excellent. Let me tell you something. We had some serious problems building Ritz-Carlton, serious moments. But I kept focused on the dream. We got up, and in fact, the first 2 years, I regretted badly that I took the job in the first place. And it was and I didn't think we would survive as a company. We would make it. So I didn't tell Sherry, my wife, because she had a little baby. She was new in town, and we had debts. We couldn't sell our place in Chicago. It was a terrible moment. But one day I knew I had to tell her because it was imminent that we would fail. And so I went home and said, Sherry, I have to talk to you. It's something terrible. And I felt terribly bad because we were not that long married, a few years, and the first baby and all that. I just have to tell you, we made a mistake. I don't think we're going to make it as a company. And Sherry looked at me and said, why would you argue with God? I prayed on it. You prayed on it. We took it. Maybe the job doesn't work. But we made the right thing coming here. So let's trust God.
Wow.
And I made it clear, I will never argue with God again in front of you.
Well, and I know Sherry, and I know what a godly woman she is, and you're probably wise not to argue with Sherry either.
You're right.
If you like what we're doing and would like to support our work, please consider making a donation. Even a little bit will go a long way toward keeping this podcast going for the months and years to come. To support this podcast, click on the link in the show notes. We are truly grateful for our wonderful community of listeners.
Well, let me just ask you one other question. There's so much, Horace. You are just a reservoir of wisdom and insight, but coming out of this whole COVID shutdown, so many business leaders have had to furlough and lay people off and cut back expenditures, and now companies are trying to get started back up and so on. And it seems that with a lot of businesses, things will change, certainly, and certainly in the hotel, the restaurant business, impacted dramatically. But it's also an opportunity to perhaps do some things differently, maybe to do them better, to have a reset and say, do we really want to just do everything the way we were before, or is this an opportunity here? And what advice would you give to business leaders who've just been through a huge crisis?
Yeah.
But are there opportunities going into the future?
Yeah. Well, during any crisis, and we all have gone through, this one happens to be a unique one. And I would advise my company. I sold my company. I've gone from Ritz-Carlton many years. I sold Capella 2 years ago. But I advise in companies. I'm on a board of companies, and I called each one of them, told me, here's my advice now. There are two things that should not change no matter what. That is the vision, the purpose, and the values of the company. They cannot change. They are stable. Now, what has to change is priority and strategies and system possibly, and all kinds of things may have to change. But priority has to change. Priority right now is the company. The company must survive. Sorry. The company must survive, because without the company, nobody has anything. It must survive. And unlike other times when it's always all concerned, now it's the company we have to pay attention to. And then next, what you have to do is say, how your customers have to survive. How do you make sure that because of Corona, they feel even stronger and more loyal to you? How do you communicate? What are you going to say? I would like an answer what you're going to do about it, I told them. Number two, what about because of Corona, you find new customers? Rethink because of Corona. Rethink what it is, but don't think, I feel bad, we have a problem. Leaders, that's not the business of a leader. The business of a leader is to sit down and say, this is a situation, I understand it, how do I benefit from it right now? Number three, next, now you have to make sure that you don't lose the top 20% of the best of your employees. And now you can all get upset with me. Next, get rid of the bottom 30% of them.
Wow.
Sorry, but the company must survive. Simple as that. And I want you to know something. The people that are not so good in their company, they weren't happy there anyway. They will find better situations somewhere else. But you cannot just be a nice guy and keep them all and start over again. And of course, and so those are the changes. But understand something too. In 10 years from now, you will tell, while now it's horror, you will spend time in 10 years to tell great story of what you did during this terrible time. It's the stories that you tell your children and your grandchildren how wonderful you were. So make it wonderful. Well,
and I've said this is the time for leaders. Leaders thrive in Christ. That's why they're there. It's for such a time. And
that's it. Focus on the vision. Don't tell me that it's difficult. I know. No, that's great. So What you're going to do because it's difficult to make yourself better.
Yeah. Well, Horst, any last advice you'd have for a leader today? As you look back, you've had such a storied career. You still continue to serve on boards and give advice and talks. This book, we want to recommend people to go to Amazon and pick this book up. It's there are just some people that have such a track record of success and just excellence in what they've done. You don't just talk about excellence. You are the example of excellence and what you've built. And so really encourage people to get this book. But Horst, any last counsel to maybe a younger leader, someone who's just starting out and they've got a career and they need, you've talked about not chance, but choice. There's some choices that people can make that will determine what kind of career they have. Any last advice for them?
This issue of choice. Make decisions. My goodness, you wherever you are right now, you made a choice to go there. You ended up where you are because that was the choice. If you would have just gone, you would have, and you had a destination in mind. Mm-hmm. If you just would have gone, you would have ended up maybe somewhere where you don't want to be. Make sure you have in mind a destination for yourself, a future that is beautiful, and then start making the choices as to how you get there. I'm telling you, your destiny is not you cannot leave it up to luck. It has to be choice. It has to. You have to make the choice for excellence. The choice, and of course, for high intent in your life. It's all choice. It's all decisions. It's all decisions. If I may tell you a very short story about a friend of mine, a good friend. I've told it a million times, but great friend, great guy, wonderful human being. Incidentally, in Germany, we got jogging together when I'm there for hours. And he always likes to argue with me about the existence of God because he's a proud atheist. So he said, and one day we were running again about 2 years ago. And he said, and I was happy he didn't bring it up. But suddenly after about an hour, he said, Horst, well, you cannot prove that there is God or Jesus. And I said, wow, that's interesting because you can't prove that there isn't. I said, with other words, it's a belief is a choice. Faith is a choice. We either evolve with us, with our parents, with our churches, or we have to make it at once. And he said, you know what? I made a choice for hope, for God. And you made a choice against hope. And he looked at me and said, oh, actually, I'm agnostic. It took 1 minute for him to become agnostic. He realized, it is your decisions. It's your decisions. Make the right, don't blame faith. Make the right decision, make the right choices, and then implement the steps that takes you to your choices, and you will go there. And make sure it is high intent. My goodness, excellence is always the result, and not excellence is the result of high intent. And choices, decisions for high intent. And I urge you, particularly you young people, don't go just out there working. Have high intent. See something beautiful. And incidentally, throwing a rock in a store window is not high intent.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Horst. It's I knew that we would it would be like a fire hydrant here, getting wisdom out of you. But I so appreciate you giving us the time. I know you've got calls even still today to advise major companies. And so thank you for just taking some time just to drop in with us and our listeners. And again, just encourage people to get the book, Excellence Wins. I think all of us we all need time around a Horst Schulze to just be reminded that we could still probably take our game to another level. We could still do better. And if you can do better, then you should. And give God your very best. And
yes.
And when you do that, you end up like Horst down the road. I didn't list all the awards and recognitions he's received, but you can look back on a life and a career with pride when you've lived your life with excellence, because you end up. Go ahead.
Can I make one more comment?
Sure.
A friend of mine, Famous Amos. Remember Famous Amos cookies?
Okay, yeah.
He had on his desk a sign, God is watching. Give him a good show.
Wow. I like that. Well, thank you, Horst, and we encourage people, go to the show notes and check out on Amazon Excellent Wins, and you can go to YouTube and see all kinds of presentations and talks, videos by Horst. He's spoken many places, and it's always worth the time to listen to what he has to say. So, Horst, may God continue to use you and bless you and your dear wife, Sherry. And
thank you.
And I look forward to visiting with you again.
Thank you for all your work, Richard. God bless you.
Thank you, Horst.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. If this is something you enjoyed, it really makes a difference if you leave a review and a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. We always love hearing from our listeners, so email us at podcast@blackaby.org.